Oh my gosh, come on. Whew. Take 5. I like recorded this video I don't know how many times today, and this last time's a charm. Welcome back, guys, to my channel. My name is Rolanda Mitch, and here on my channel, if you're new, I will be telling you or showing you my nursing journey, or me going into the field of nursing, this, that, and third. This video in particular, I'm going to share with you guys my experience in Anatomy and Physiology 1 and how I was able to pass the class and what I got. Actually, I'll probably put what I got in the title, so basically how I aced the class. So I jotted down some notes, so if you see me look down, that's why, if that matters. But first, I'm going to briefly tell you my background in terms of my educational career. So this is not my first time in college, and this is not my first degree I'm pursuing. This is actually my third degree I'm pursuing. So I do have an undergrad in computer information systems, and however, when I was studying it, I had okay grades. There was times where I had like A's, then I had B's, and there was times I had C's, and lots of C's. All throughout my journey in that program, I was into it, and then I kind of fell out of it, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to switch careers paths now. So anyway, I bring that up because I basically did not make or find out what type of learner I am, or I didn't develop any really good studying styles. So now going into anatomy and physiology, I am a big researcher when it comes to something I'm really into. So I researched the heck out of what to expect from these prerequisites for nursing. And when it came to A&P, I couldn't hear enough how people would say anatomy and physiology is like no joke. It's very tense, it's very heavy in material, there's a lot that you gotta cover, there's a lot you gotta remember. Like, it's really intense. That's like the one class that has like the highest drop rate out of all the other classes for pre-nursing and all that, I guess pre-med and things of that nature. So with that being said, I was a bit nervous because I just thought, well, if all of this is expected of me, I want to make sure I do it right, and I do it right the first time and not the second or the third, because I really don't have time to spend in class taking over the same classes over again and spending all this money and wasting time and all that stuff. So the first thing that I did was to find out what type of learner I am. And you've probably heard of this term before, but it's legit. There are different types of learners out there. Like, everyone has a different learning type. So I went on Google and I typed in like learner, what kind of learner I am quiz. I kind of worded it like that, and then I did like probably 3 different websites to see if I would get like a general idea, and I basically got that I was a visual learner. So there's a numerous amount of categories, but I know 3 that's like the most popular is visual, which you have to like see things, like see the information, see pictures or whatever. Auditory, which is where you have to listen. And then another one is when you're more hands-on. I forgot the proper term for that. But that's like the top 3 that I know off the top. There's others too, but those are the top 3. Everyone does have a little bit of all of them, but you do have a strength in one of them. And my strength is visual. Like, I gotta see it. Okay. I can't learn a material just from reading text. Like, I gotta see pictures. And if it's available, I have to see videos. Like, I just need to get it all types of ways so I really understand what to do. All right. So I did that. The next thing I did was I I had to figure out my professor's teaching style. So I had to figure out their teaching style, how they grade and how they test. And it was kind of hard at first because I never had them before, and I'll get more into this later, but they didn't give us any like homework, so I didn't really have a lot to work with. So we basically were just graded based on our test grades, which was only 4 for each class. So for lab and lecture, we were given 4 classes in each class, so that's 8 altogether. So I really had to be very careful and pay really close attention of how my my teachers graded us and how they tested us and all that great stuff. So I will now split this up into 2 parts. I'm going to talk about what I did for my lecture class and then what I did for my lab class. For my lecture class, what I did was I recorded my professor. She was not a technology person in terms of like posting things on Blackboard or posting things on the website, period, for us. Like, she didn't do PowerPoints. She did basic traditional writing. So she I guess jotted some notes at home, brought that to class, and basically wrote not whatever she wrote on the paper, but just started writing notes on the board from her notes that she took at home. So everything she wrote on the board, I had in my notebook. I did not miss one word. Well, there was times where I missed like a phrase or something, but for the most part, I made sure I wrote everything legit the way she did, because I just did not know what to expect, and I just did not want to miss anything. And at the same time, I also recorded her. So I did both. I had both my recorder going, and then I had my notes written down too. And like, she talked at warp speed. Like, she was just, because there was so much material she had to go through, and you know, we only met once a week, so it was a lot for her to cover. So she talked super fast. You were able to ask questions, but not too much, because if you were getting too deep into one particular subject, then she would like cut you off and like revert, you know, go back and finish up what she has to talk about. So yeah, so that's what I did in class: record her and write the notes in my book. After class, I would go to the library, and if not the library, I would go to like Starbucks or a library somewhere else and rewrite all of the notes from lecture that day. And this time I would write it neater. I would use different colors. I would highlight if I needed to highlight. I didn't really quite master my highlighting situation, but I would definitely write each point in different, like each different subject in different colors, so it stood out to me. And as I'm rewriting it, I would also try and say out loud what I'm writing, because for some reason, like when you write it and say it out loud, it tends to like go into, if you're taking A&P or you're about to, I'm sure you'll hear this, it'll go into your like what part of the, how can I say this, your occipital lobe will retain this information, because that's like the memory processing. I'm not gonna get into all that right now. I'm on break. So that's what I would do all on the same day of class. However, if for whatever reason I don't have enough time to do it, I would do it the next day. But however, I would try to get that notes rewritten before the week started, because I had class on Saturday, so I would have Saturday and Sunday to rewrite the notes so I can start looking over them during the week. Now, after my notes were rewritten, I would then look at how many pages I have, and normally it was always between 5 and let's say 6 pages front and back. So I would basically look at how many pages I have to go over and divide a section for each day equally. You get it? So let's say Monday I would do 1 page, Tuesday I would do the next page, and then go back and go over the first page. Wednesday I'll go over the 3rd page, then look over the 2nd and the 1st page again. So I would do like that type of order. So that way I'm not too overwhelmed with information, because you look at it one time and you're like, oh my god, I have to look over all these notes in like one day. No, if you break it up, it makes it way more easier to deal with, to retain, and you look forward to actually studying. Because that was another thing I had to like get over, was like, okay, getting the motivation to study. Because when I would see all them papers, I would just automatically want to just give up. So I would break it up in increments. As I'm going over it each day, like say for instance on Monday I just went over the first page, I would also make flashcards. So I'll make flashcards of that first page for that day. And then after, and as I'm writing flashcards, I'm also saying it again to get it in my head. Okay. And if I have enough time, which usually I would make like questionnaires in the flashcard too. Like I'm trying to think of an example. Let me just pull out one right now. Here's a stack of flashcards, and no, this is not all the flashcards I use for the semester. I have about 5 of these, this thick. Actually, no, more. So for instance, when we were talking about the reproductive system and we were talking about the testes, I had said I covered the notes on the testes, and then I made another flashcard asking me a question. So for every blank spermatocyte, there are how many haploids? You get it? And the answer to that is, for every primary spermatocyte, there's 4 haploids, spermatids. You know, I'll do something like that. So once that's done, then I'll go over the flashcards again. Like I'll start just going over it to myself. And at the same time, I will walk around in my room as I'm asking myself these questions or doing the flashcards. Because also walking or doing some type of movement while it's like actively studying, I guess that's what you would call it. It helps the memory, helps your brain retain the information. I'm gonna be saying that probably all night. So I would do that basically every day. Okay. Then on top of that, usually in the beginning of the week, I would also watch YouTube videos. So after we go over a particular subject, let's say endocrine system, I would YouTube endocrine system, and the top 2 people, or the top 2 channels I would watch are Crash Course and Professor Dave Explains. Like those 2 channels, they were like it for me, because they explained the information so well, and also had the ability to keep rewinding over and over again. And also they had great animation that that displayed how each function is supposed to work, or how each part of the body is supposed to do it. So it was way more easier to utilize those resources. There was other videos too that I watched. I didn't really watch Khan Academy, at least not yet, because I felt like Professor Dave and Crash Course was enough for me. But there were other ones that I did happen to watch for certain subjects, like when we talked about the neuroglias. There were other videos, other people I watched for that, but for the main part, it was Crash Course and it was Professor Dave Explains. And I will put those links in the description box below so you guys can check them out, because they were amazing. Okay, so that is for my lecture class. Now for my lab class,